For the assignment, Intro to CI, after reading the readings and watching both of the videos, for the first question, what is comprehensible input? Obviously, it's a instructional shift when teachers provide input where students understand most, but not all, of the language. In order to make this instrumental shift, they must first understand the student's current proficiency level. Sorry, not professional. Obviously, we have the novice, intermediate, and advanced. This is where IC refers to the target language that students hear in class, and even though they may not be understanding each and every word, like I said earlier, they recognize certain instruction through repetition. So you have to repeat it and keep doing it, so students can pick it up. To answer the second part, how is it different from methods that you learn Spanish with? Obviously, I think the way I can think of it is how, like in high school, one of the teachers would do the book Spanish teaching, which I found it really boring and didn't really learn anything but conjugate a bunch of verbs, and we didn't really do hands-on real role scenarios. It was more of filling in the blanks, and I feel like that's how it is, like the method that people think that they learn Spanish with, compared to the comprehensible input. This is the opposite, where it's hands-on. The teacher shows it with an activity, a presentation, or an idea or a game, and the students seem to engage and pick it up. They learn that way faster. Yeah, you have to use grammar, but you don't have to do it all the time because it would get boring for students. That's the way I took this question. I don't know if I'm answering it correctly, but for number 2, summarize and explain what you learned from each of the articles or videos. What are your immediate thoughts about it? Well, the thing that I picked up on chapter 1, the promise, basically I learned that when communicating about interest topics and not studying parts of the language become the curriculum, the students are naturally more engaged in class. And that's what I was trying to say on the first question. For the second part, teachers are also motivated when moving to proficiency based language becomes the curriculum. The students are, that was the same thing, but teachers are also motivated when moving to proficiency-based teaching by the substantial increase in students' engagement they often see. But there's some obviously negatives and some of the problems apparently that I got from the reading, and I found in the first reading, was that many teachers wish to align with the standards and research themselves unable to do so in their day-to-day. They're pressured to have their students constantly learn certain language parts. So basically, you have to follow the curriculum or you have to align it with it, and sometimes you can't really do that. So you have to basically teach what you don't want to teach, even though it's not really helping the student. But that's the part about, I think, teaching, when sometimes we have to follow a certain curriculum. I want to follow the curriculum, but there's ways that we can come up with a different thought or idea, but obviously we have to follow the school. Other of the stuff that I found was the student's mental presentation of the language is built from spoken and written messages that they have comprehended. Processing comprehensive messages builds acquired competence, which leads to true language proficiency. Obviously, these are the levels that I was talking about too: the novice, intermediate, and advanced. I really like the quote from Dr. Stephen Krashen. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Communication is the language works best when it is not constrained by the grammar rule of the day. So basically, we have to stay away from grammar, I mean, it's good to use it, but not to use it a lot. For the for the other reading, I think I have still the same first reading. Sorry, Dr. Cashin's vision of comprehensible input, whole language, meaningful, interesting instruction, fire world language aligned with our nation standards. He also recommends a superior input that prioritize communication and whole language over specific language parts. Communication is huge. Same thing with context. Like later on, I'm going to talk about advocating for change, a question of equity. Like the other video talked about students' backgrounds. It's for every student, every basically race, disability. Students can learn it. Obviously, it's going to take, some students are going to pick it up faster, but the other ones are going to get it too. And that's what the last video talked about too, with a guy talking in Spanish. I forgot his name. The other stuff for the video for Stephen Krashen, language acquisition, comprehensible input. We all acquire language the same. I really like how he gave the example of lesson 1 and 2 when he literally just started talking in German, and I was like, didn't even get anything what he said. But then he gave the lesson with visual activities, drawing and pointing, which I learned more in what he was trying to say. So it was really interesting to see how when he shows it and how when he just talks. And it was when he was just talking, it was boring, and I didn't get anything. In this one, he was just giving us an example and showing us every part of what he was talking about, and it was really fun to pay attention to what I learned something. So that's an example of the input, and I think it works really well. It feels more authentic in my opinion. He also said that we acquire language in one way and only one way, when we understand messages. That's talking is not practicing. Basically improve Spanish. We can't really do talking to a mirror like a lot of people say that, oh, it works. And no, it doesn't work. That's what he said. I really like how he also talked about the one girl that was at school for 5 months and didn't really do anything until she just listened and finally picked it up, and she was learning. So that's another thing of comprehensive input. They just like the definition I gave earlier, recognize certain structures through repetition. So that's what this girl was doing over here. I have more stuff like motivation, self-esteem, anxiety, but I don't want to make this video really long. So I'm going to leave it at that for that video. For the while we are on topic, page 97 to 115, the reader reflects the idea somehow language acquisition involves the model presentation versus practice, obviously showing visual activities. The students expect to receive both presentation and explanation from the teacher. That's true. Focusing on grammar in language does little to advance either acquisition or communicative ability in their students, which is true. We can't really be using a lot of grammar. No mechanism that explains the rules into the abstract complex mental representation we call language. For Spanish learners, the acquisition problem is not the use of certain and star. That's, I mean, you can learn it, but you won't learn it really well. Teachers might draw learners' attention to some property of language in a way that does not break communication flow. It also depends on the teacher too and what kind of instructional they give. Focus on form is not pre-planned. It arises incidentally during a communicative interaction. Obviously, that was some of the stuff that I learned. The last quote I had on not reading was processing instruction recognizes that one of the initial stages of acquisition is that learners have to somehow process input data. So it talked about a little bit about that. For the how to teach such that they understand, they need input so that they can produce output. Input is reading and listening. Output is speaking and writing. Moving from comprehensible to comprehended input, sorry. When you teach, you also have to look at your students' eyes. There's a bunch of stuff that he talks about: slowing down, or rephrase, link meaning to L1. But there's other ideas that they gave. The IC journey, slow can mean so much more than just the speed at which I speak. Sometimes we have to slow down. Slow is using your body to communicate happiness, joy, and a funny joke. That was one of the examples of the reading. Slow is praising students when they use the signal for not understanding. Slow is uncomfortable for the advanced speaker but necessary for the novice, which is true. And for the video, ¿qué es el input comprehensible? I'm gonna code switch here a little bit. This was in Spanish. El contenido es tan interesante que no nos concentramos en el idioma sino en el mensaje. En las clases de idiomas empujamos el output, hablar desde la primera sesión. And that's what Dr. Krashen also recommended. Basically, ¿qué es el input? Que lo que no es gramática se deja a un lado. Seguir el libro del texto es no bueno, tampoco. No es tan bueno, perdón. Lista de vocabulario de memorización. Que el profesor no hable todo el tiempo. ¿Y qué es? Obviamente es atractivo, importante, genera ideas. Seguir conversando, conectando el mensaje. Importante para los estudiantes, algo que les llame la atención, como dije. Obviamente otra de las cosas es equidad. Todos los aprendemos igual, no hay diferencia, es para todos. Las reglas de las clases del IC que él habló eran: escucha con atención de entender. Una persona habla, los demás escuchan. Ayuda a que la conversación fluya. Haz tu 50% y el maestro hace el otro 50%. Nada en los escritores es cierto cuando se indica lo contrario. Eso es lo que tengo para los summaries. That's what I have for all the summaries for the readings and videos. For question number 3, have you seen it in action? Yes, I have. I've seen both, actually. Last year I was doing observations for 2 Spanish classes, and the one teacher actually showed a video, and actually he, in front of the class, after the video, showed the students what they needed to do for their presentation, and it turned out really well, and even funny, because I thought it was fun to watch, and kids had fun. They were laughing when they were watching their videos or their presentations. For the other one, I've seen with teachers using just book Spanish. It's boring. Students do this, and the teacher just talks and barely asks questions. So I've seen both of them, and I've seen the CI comprehensible input last year. So I know some teachers are incorporating. They didn't do it all the time, but I saw a few times. For the last question, would it be easier or harder to teach using the CI method? I think it would be easier, but at the same time, there's going to be hard decisions or ideas to make, because sometimes we have to align our curriculum standards, school standards. So that's going to be the hard part, I think, like that one teacher was saying. But I think it would be easier. It would be the best way for us students to learn Spanish, because it's more authentic. We show it, we do it in front of them so they can pick it up, and they don't get bored. I plan on not using book Spanish all the time. I'm gonna have to use it sometimes, but I'm gonna try to stay away from that. And I'd really like the CI method. So that's what hopefully I would try to use if they would let me. Thank you.